Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. If you're new around here, my name is Louise and I'm an eBay reseller. In today's video I'm going to be talking to you about measurements. It's not going to be a long video, but I just want to show you what it is that I do to do my measurements for my clothes. This is something that I've been trialling for a couple of months and I found that it's really helped me to do my measurements. It's caused less people to ask me questions about measurements, and also it has made things so much quicker and easier to do measurements, because it can get pretty long and tedious to try and measure everything out with a little tape measure. But this way that I've done it, I found that it's a little bit easier to be able to get those measurements done. If you sell clothing on eBay, especially dresses, you will know that eBay now want you to specify what kind of length the dress is. So whether it is a short dress, knee length, mid-calf or long. And it can be quite difficult to decide, because if you have someone that is much shorter that is going to be wearing the dress, their knee length is going to be much different to someone that's going to be much taller. So it's really difficult to say that this is definitely going to be a knee length dress when you're not too sure who's going to be buying your products. So this way that I've done it, hopefully it has helped a lot more people try and decide what is the right length for those as well. So for the length measurements, this is what I have set up here. Now the one thing that I think is a really useful tool is this bit here. Now this is actually a height wall chart. I bought it from Amazon. I'll put the link to the one I bought in my description below, and all that it does is it has on the one side, if I move my mannequin out of the way, it has on the one side it has feet and inches, and on the other side then it has centimetres. So I have this right next to my mannequin, and then I will take the photo, and then you can be able to see then where it starts and then where it stops on every single one of my photos. So I'll put a picture up to show you what the actual end result looks like. But you can see here that this is against my backdrop here, which is just a plain white backdrop, and it can just be in the background, so you can see then where the dress starts and then also where it stops. So it's then up to the buyer then to see what length the dress is, and then they can then decide that if it is knee length or whether it's mini or midi, whatever it might be. A lot of the dresses that I put down as knee length, it would be knee length for me, and I'm probably average, below average height. So if it's knee length for me, then obviously someone that is a little bit smaller than me, it might be a bit longer for them, or someone that's a bit taller than me might be a bit shorter on them. But it is then up to them, with this length measurement given on the photos, it's then up to them to decide if it actually is their knee length for them. So I find this a really useful tool to use, and it takes no work, because once you've taken your photos, this is already there in the photos. So you don't need to change anything, you don't need to then measure anything for the length. So it just makes things so much easier, because I know that length measurements can be a bit tricky, because you're trying to measure, well, am I measuring from the top of the shoulder to the hem? I'm measuring to the top of the neck to the hem, and it's all very fiddly, especially then when the dress is stretchy, or whether if it's too long, it can obviously be really difficult then to get a tape measure, lie out flat and really try and measure it then, and it's very difficult. Where I find with this way, I've had no issues with using this so far, and I find it much easier. The only thing that I have with this is that because it is a height measurement chart, it's upside. I'm about to put it upside down, because obviously if you're trying to measure somebody's height, you want to start it from low, so you want to start it from like 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot, so on. So you would have it sort of low to high. So I've had to flip it around and hang it on my wall. So as I flipped it around, it doesn't start at 0. So if you can get one that starts at 0, it might be even better, but my one doesn't start at 0, so because it would take into consideration the skirting board, so you'd put it above the skirting board if you were to do your height, but I've done it upside down, so it does actually start at, I think it's 10 centimetres, which can be a bit of an issue, because you can't start it from 0 exactly and then bring it down. So in my descriptions I say the length measurements given in the photos are a guide. Please see where the measurements start and end to be able to get the idea of how long the item is. So, and this stays up for every single one of my items, whether it is a dress, a pair of trousers, a top, whatever it might be, I have that up there, because still people ask these sort of questions. Because if it's a pair of jeans, the good thing with a pair of jeans is that if the jeans don't give you a measurement for the inside leg, once you've got it hung up against this backdrop with the measurements, then you can see sort of where the crotch is, and then sort of where the bottom of the leg is, so you can then see the length measurements of the inside leg. So you can already do that without having to try and be really fiddly with it with the measurement tape afterwards. So I find that this is a really useful tool to be able to do the length measurements really nice and simply, and it sits away in the corner. It's a nice sort of simple design. You can get slightly thinner ones and smaller ones, but I find that this is quite good because obviously it needs to also show up in the photo. When you upload your photos onto eBay, the quality can sort of be reduced slightly because obviously it's being uploaded onto the internet. So I find that having a big enough one to be able to see it is a really useful tool. So then once I've taken the photos of it on my mannequin and you can see the length measurements, I then get a ordinary tape measure, and then I measure the pit to pit and the waist, usually if it's a dress. So I will hold the dress up and I will lie it flat against my backdrop on here, and then I will pinch it where the armpits are here, and then I will lie it flat, and I will get my tape measure and I will lie it against it, and then I will take a photo of it lying against it there, and then do the same thing then with the waist as well. So I'll have them lie flat. I'll show you some pictures here. I'll have them lay flat. I will then have the tape measure lying across them. I will take a photo of it like that, and once I've done those measurements, I then upload them photos onto my listing as well, as more guidance. So I don't need to type it out into the description. The person who is buying it can physically see the sizes of it on the images. If it's an item that has required more than 12 photos and I can't upload photos of the measurements like that, I will then write them down on just a little piece of paper, just a scrap little piece of paper. So in this case, it's previously where I've done a dress and a blazer. And once I've taken those measurements, I will put it on top of the item that it is for. I will take a photo of those measurements next to the item, so I know that when I'm putting in the measurements into the description, I know which measurements these belong to as well. So it really does help. So that is it really for my measurements. There is not much more that I do. I literally just use the thing that I've got on my wall and a tape measure to do any of the smaller details. Things like sleeve measurements, things like that. Again, once it's hung up on the mannequin, you can then see how long the sleeve is and any other features like that. So anything to do with the length, that's what I use that thing on my wall for. And that does all of sort of length measurements, and that should be able to help anybody. But anything to do with some more width, that's when I have to use then a tape measure. But as I lie them flat, I take the photos and I upload those photos. I don't bother then trying to type it into the description because everything's very approximate, and obviously if you get it wrong or if you type it in wrong into the description and the buyer gets it and it's not what you've stated, it's very confusing. Whereas a photo that you've taken, there can be no dispute about it. You can say physically, you can see from one side to the other, this is how wide something is, for example. So that is how I do my measurements. I do hope it has helped some of you. As I will put a link to that wall chart in my description. If you find one that's better because it starts at 0, fantastic, let me know, that would be great. But this is the one I use and it works an absolute charm for me and has been for the past couple of months now. So it's really useful tool, and I do really recommend it. It has made my photographing and listing so much easier and quicker, and I've also had nobody complaining or asking even about length measurements. I still have messages for older products that I haven't put the measurements on about lengths and widths of items, but since I've started to use this, nobody has asked me any questions about this, and it has made things so much easier, which means that I can pack all my items away into the polybags, I can store them in my storage units, and I can then completely forget about those items until they sell. I don't have to then get them back out, try and find it, try and measure it, respond to the buyer, package it back up again and put it back into here, because that can just cause a lot of grief, especially when you've got hundreds and hundreds of items. It can then be a bit of a struggle to try and find that item that it is that you need to take a measurement for then to the buyer to respond, oh, thanks for that, it's not going to fit me, and you just feel like you've wasted your time a bit. So having it and doing it as and when you're taking the photos, it should make your listing, photographing and storage so much easier. So thank you very much for watching. I do hope that video has been really useful. If it was, please do give it a thumbs up and let me know down in the comments below what you think about that and think it would be helpful. If there's anything more that you think I do this particular way, please do let me know. Let me know in the comments below what you do to make your measurements easier and to make your listing easier. If you're not already subscribed, please do subscribe to my channel. Again, make sure to give this video a nice thumbs up and do click the notification link if you want to be notified when I put out my next videos. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you soon.